I used to be all in on the left in my teens and early 20s, and then I was all in on the right from the time I was 25 till more recently during the transition from 37 to 38 when I realized I don't have any love for either side. Both times I swallowed the dogma, drank the Kool-Aid, marched in the proverbial parades, and defended the tribe with everything I had. Both times they eventually vomited me out like manky meat because I wouldn't stop noticing patterns that pissed on their sacred narratives. I'm not independent. I'm not a moderate hunting for applause in the mushy middle. I'm exiled from both camps for the unforgivable sin of refusing their groupthink. The red-blue binary is a relic, a low-resolution puppet show for people addicted to the feeling of belonging, even when it requires lying to themselves about how human beings actually function. This is a violet path, not a compromise. Not a watered-down both-sides shrug. A total transcendence of the status quo. A clean break from the scripted theater and loyalty tests. It rests on one non-negotiable foundation: intellectual sovereignty. My mind is not a vassal state for your ideology. I follow raw pattern recognition, blunt observable reality, and actual human behavior wherever they lead. Even when they embarrass both teams simultaneously and leave me standing alone holding the bag in the wreckage. The red-blue system is collapsing into irrelevance because it no longer maps the territory. It's performance art, moral cosplay. One side preaches compassion and systemic justice until the moment compassion threatens the sacred group cohesion. Then the heretic becomes a monster who must be destroyed. The other side worships individual liberty and tradition until liberty produces outcomes they dislike. Then suddenly the state, the church, or order must step up to enforce the right hierarchy. Both run the same corrupted code, cherry-pick the data that flattens the tribe, excommunicate the data that doesn't, and punish anyone who notices the discrepancy. I've lived it, lost friends over it, burned bridges over it, lost status over it, and peace on both sides for the crime of pattern recognition. Pattern recognition that I can't turn off, speaking of. That's the exile tax. I paid it gladly. The alternative was lobotomizing myself to stay in the club. Violet doesn't split the difference. It operates on a higher plane entirely. It's neogenesis for the political mind. The conscious restructuring of your own thinking, shredding the old programmed identities, and achieving hyper-awareness of the actual mechanisms driving behavior. Human beings are not blank slates waiting for the correct policy to perfect them. They are messy, self-interested, sometimes noble, often short-sighted, status-seeking creatures shaped by evolution, incentives, culture, and trauma. Any system that denies this is selling fairy tales. Look at the evidence all around us. The left's sacred equity experiments keep producing the same predictable failures when they ignore human nature and incentives. The right it's just cut taxes and restore values mantras keep hitting the same walls when they pretend cultural decay and concentrated power have no consequences. Both sides scream about threats to democracy while building bigger surveillance and censorship tools the moment they hold the levers. Both sides platform predators and grifters who parrot the right slogans. The binary doesn't solve problems. It manufactures them so the performance can continue. The violet perspective calls bullshit on the whole stage. It asks harder questions. What actually matches the data across time and cultures? What incentive structures produce the repeatable results instead of slogans? What respects observable human behavior instead of trying to shame, engineer, or guilt it into compliance? What increases real sovereignty for thinking individuals rather than manufacturing bigger, angrier herds? I do wonder. Water. Can't live with it, can't live without it. And it happens to be one of my favorite beverages. Imagine that. It means, like I've said already, this isn't centrism. Centrism is still dancing in the red-blue theater at half volume. Violet is walking off the stage, kicking over one of the props on your way down, and learning to read the actual territory without a team jersey. The old binary is dying because reality is accelerating. Technology, demographics, the economic churn, and the tribes all feel it. Which is why their rhetoric grows more hysterical, their purity spirals tighten, and their demands for conformity become more and more deranged. They aren't primarily fighting each other anymore. They're fighting their own obsolescence, and they want you bleeding in the trenches of that war because that no longer decides anything important. What the Violet Path actually looks like in practice, you ask? It means ruthless intellectual honesty. You call out corporate capture on the right and institutional capture on the left without airing whose feelings it hurts. You recognize that family structure, culture, and individual agency matter more than either side admits, while still acknowledging that concentrated power, whether the government, corporate, or ideological, corrupts predictably. You support actual free speech, even for people you despise. Because sovereignty dies the moment you let any tribe become the censor. It means building parallel systems instead of begging for reform, creating your own platforms, economies, communities, and knowledge networks that don't require kneeling to red or blue gatekeepers. It means prioritizing pattern recognition over narrative loyalty, studying evolutionary psychology, incentive theory, history, and raw human outcomes without ideological blinders. It's lonely work. I'll admit that first. The tribes hate nothing more than someone who won't play along. You lose the warm bath of belonging, you gain a mind that cannot be colonized in return. The violet third option isn't red, it isn't blue. It's the color you get when you stop letting other people mix the paint. Once you see it clearly, the old performance looks as cheap and desperate as it always has. And now, I'm not recruiting you into any new team with some kind of prettier branding. I'm telling you, the teams were always cages. Intellectual sovereignty is expensive. It costs comfort, friends, and easy certainty. But it is the only position that keeps your mind intact when the next wave of groupthink keeps coming in. The binary has had its century. It's time to transcend it. Violet is the way forward. Everything else is just different costumes on the same dying script. This has been Calvan Starling, and if you've watched this far, don't forget to check out my merch down below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And among that merch is that book that I've got everybody so excited for. The last 3 days was released yesterday! So check it out if you haven't already. And I know you haven't, because I haven't sold a single copy yet. I checked.